Maybe later, I don't know. But hi, good morning. For those of you still filling out the survey, go ahead and fill out that first half. If you want, you don't have to. Like I said, it's not directly related to today's presentation. It's to help me as a college senior write my senior thesis. So I appreciate your help conducting research that'll help me graduate. But beyond that, my name is Matthis. I am a veteran of the Army. I am a former Army sergeant. I am an Afghanistan war veteran. I'm also a veteran of the Philippines. I occupied Germany and Japan as well for about 4 years. I'm an Iraq war resistor. I'm somebody who was given orders as a sergeant in the military to deploy to Iraq, and I refused those orders because I felt the war, what I believe the war is immoral, illegal, and a number of other things. So I actually had about a 1.5 year long experience fighting against the military to stop myself from being deployed to the war in Iraq. So I'm here today with my very good friend Elaine as part of the We Are Not Your Soldiers tour. It is a program of a nonprofit organization called The World Can't Wait. What we do is we go into high school classrooms to talk to young people about the military, about military recruitment, and about the kinds of experiences soldiers have in the military, and that as young people you can expect to have if you choose to join the military. How many people here have seen like a recruiting commercial for some branch of service? Almost everybody. Wow, almost everybody. Can anybody describe to me one of the commercials they saw? Go ahead.
The dragon turns into the Marine.
That's so funny! I was talking about that just this morning. The dragon turns into the Marine, or the kid's fighting the dragon, and he slays it and he turns into a Marine. That's, yeah, that one's been on the air for like 10 years. I think it's maybe one of the most effective commercials they've ever run. Anybody else? Anybody seen? Go ahead.
About 6 years ago, there was one of the, with the Marines. There was like some guy climbing like a rock face. And like, I don't know, you just saw the Marines in the sky and was inspired to make it to the top. That's all.
Yeah. What kind of messages do commercials like this give to you about the military? Anybody, by the way, I'm not a stickler about raising your hand. If you have something important to say, just say it. Don't feel like, try to be polite, don't interrupt, but, so, what kind of these commercials, slaying the dragon, turning into a Marine, climbing up a giant hill face, what kind of messages do those send you about the military? Brave. I think that they definitely try and do that. Usually they also tend to revolve around like masculinity, right? Yes. In many cases, especially these Marine Corps commercials. There's men and women in the military, but very oftentimes they present a very masculine image of the military. They like to present soldiers and Marines as powerful people, brave people, good people, people who fight for freedom and justice. When I was getting out of the Army, the slogan went to being Army Strong. Has anybody seen these commercials? The Army Strong commercials? There's strong, and then there's Army Strong. Yeah. They spent millions and millions of dollars coming up with that slogan, and it's good, it's catchy. I see those commercials or whatever as a veteran, having been in the military, and I watch and I say, dang, that Army looks kind of cool when they make it look like that. The unfortunate thing is that's not the military experience. That's an advertisement. And that's what too many kids in this country think the military is when they sign their names on a dotted line that more or less turns you into property of the government for some period of time. Very interesting. You never thought of, they don't really put that in the advertisement, do they? That soldiers are property of the U.S. government.
They don't.
No, they don't. No, they don't, because, I don't know, I thought people stopped being property in this country like 150 years ago. Not true. Soldiers are property. If you try to kill yourself in the military, which so many soldiers do, and veterans, my God, more soldiers and veterans are killing themselves now after coming back from combat than actually dying in the war. because the experiences that we have over there are so horrifying. They leave people completely shattered. They leave them with things like post-traumatic stress disorder, which is a life-changing condition. Does anybody know what it is? Can somebody define post-traumatic stress disorder for me? Doesn't have to be perfect.
It's when somebody experiences so much stress, they have flashbacks and scenarios that cause them stress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, more or less. What? Say what?
It's like when I guess you have long-term emotional scarring from specific actions you took or decisions you made, or experiences.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what it is. That's a very thorough definition. It's been described this way to me. It's been described as a perfectly reasonable human reaction to an overwhelmingly unreasonable situation. Post-traumatic stress disorder is a chronic condition, meaning one that isn't curable. It doesn't go away. Once you become a victim of post-traumatic stress disorder, you're going to struggle with that condition for the rest of your life. And far too often, the rest of your life, when it comes to these veterans, is between now and when they kill themselves. And that is another one of those huge, huge consequences of military service. They just recently came out, the VA, do you know what the VA is? The Veterans Administration? It's the bureau here that's supposed to take care of the veterans coming back and keep track of their illnesses and come up with statistics. Well, they admitted themselves that last year, 1 in 5 Americans who killed themselves was a veteran. 1 in 5. Every 80 minutes, a veteran or a soldier in this country kills themselves. Usually as the result of wounds they came home with that you couldn't see, because not all wounds are physical. Some wounds are emotional. But physical wounds also. I mean, we have seen in this war specifically so many more soldiers coming home alive that would have 30 years ago died in combat. Well, they're now coming home alive, which is good, but they're coming home mutilated, without arms and without legs. Many of them completely unemployable, who will be on disability for the rest of their lives. You know, they don't show these things in the commercials. They have now. It was 3 weeks ago. I was in Pennsylvania in like a rural town for a car race, and the military recruiters were there, and they drove up in this big motorhome. And on either side of this motorhome, they had these giant TV screens with 4 video game controllers coming out of them. And there's about 50 Boy Scouts in uniform lined up to play Modern Warfare. While the military recruiter sat there and talked to him and said, "Boy, you're a good shot. You'd make a good soldier, 12-year-old Boy Scout." You know? They start building this idea of what is the military, you know? How many lives, how many restarts do you get? You know? Like, it starts early, but, you know, they don't have a video game that shows what it's like waiting at the VA for 6 hours trying to talk to somebody about perhaps an anxiety attack you're in the middle of. You know, they don't show what it's like living for 60 years as a quadriplegic. You know what that is? Somebody who doesn't have any arms or legs, which regularly happens. People regularly lose arms and legs who don't die. It's everywhere. But these aren't the images they show the Boy Scouts. They're not the images they put on television, which is the necessity of programs like this. I suppose not many of you have had a veteran of a war come into a classroom and tell you these things before, huh? Anybody? Nobody. I mean, this information has got to get out there because young people, again and again, continue to sign up to join the military thinking they're going to experience one thing. On the other side, they find out that it was something completely different that they didn't see in the brochure. Does anybody have family in the military here? No, any brothers, sisters, friends, second cousins, people 3 removed? There you go. Who? Do you mind me asking who?
I have a family friend's son that is in the military.
Right now?
Yeah.
Do you know, has he gone to fight?
Yes, he's going to fight.
Have you met him? Have you had a chance to talk to him about it?
Nope, I've never actually seen this kid, but I've heard, well, yeah, I've heard about him.
Does his family talk about him? Maybe, did he come home different? Did he,
No, I don't think he did, but his father doesn't like to talk about him for other reasons.
yeah. Well, that's actually usually what you find. I mean, so many veterans just don't like to talk about it. Because the truth is, it's very difficult because my memories of being in the military look very different than what I see on Veterans Day and what I see on Memorial Day. You know, my memories of the military are not honorable and heroic. I remember being trained as a killer. You know, I remember being trained to stab bayonets in and out of, dummies dressed up as Arab civilians while screaming kill at the top of my lungs. You know, I mean, I remember being in Afghanistan, riding around in a Humvee, having my weapon pointed out the window and seeing the faces of 5-year-olds staring over the barrel of my rifle at me. I can talk about these things. I've been practicing for a number of years. Most people won't and can't. I mean, somebody in the last period, it was a very interesting young man who debated with us nearly the entire time about my positions on the war and the military. And at the very end, he came down and he said, well, one way or the other, I just want to shake your hand and say thank you for your service. And I said, I'll tell you, you don't know what you're thanking me for. You know? Because my memories are so different than what people think. You know? It's so different, and it's a trap. It feels. I mean, I wrote a piece. It was just Veterans Day last Friday, right? It's supposed to be a day to celebrate veterans and stuff. I couldn't hardly even leave the house because it's such a mind warp to me to remember, you know, what it was like eating, you know, hamburgers and throwing away the leftovers on base while they're like 5-year-olds starving right outside, begging for food and change right outside the gate, you know? It doesn't look like the flag draped parades to me anymore.
Was it as traumatic while it was happening, or is a lot of it in hindsight?
Well, yeah, the military is is a traumatic experience no matter who enlists in it, no matter where you go. I mean, the whole thing felt traumatizing. I mean, I remember specifically having this sensation take over when I was in basic training that lasted till almost I was out of the military, where I literally started feeling as though I wasn't in my own body. I started to feel as though I was like in a bubble, floating behind my head 6 feet, watching myself like on a TV screen because I felt like I had no control over myself. You give all that up when you sign on the dotted line and say, yes, I will be property of the U.S. government. You know, it was traumatic the whole way through. The military is torture. I mean, literally, it is torture. You know, we don't think about it that often, but I mean, you know, boot camp, drill sergeants, you know, they are there to traumatize you, to make your life miserable, to make your everyday life so very bad that being in a war zone just wouldn't seem that different. I mean, the system thrives off of traumatizing people. That's what they think they have to do, you know. And there's a number of ways they do it.
I was going to ask how.
Yeah, there's a number of ways they do it. They will go after your sexuality. If you're a man, they will try and instill in you this. I mean, they instill the senses of a sexual predator in men. I mean, I went to an all-male basic training, and we spent the majority of time running around in formation, singing cadences that involve things like rape, and that involve things like dropping napalm on kids. You know, we were singing songs about how, you know, it doesn't matter who you marry or how nice the girl is or guy. if you go off to war, they're going to leave you and sleep with somebody else at home. They try and instill in you this idea that the military is the only family that you have. And that's just the official stuff. The unofficial stuff, they also go after your sexuality.